Hi, in this video I wanted to go over a few problems from this Module 3 review. I'm just going to kind of choose some random problems, but let's start with this number 2. So we have a recipe calls for 1 1/3 cups of flour. Well, how many cups will we need if we're preparing 5 batches? That means we're going to need basically 5 1 1/3, right? If we need 5 1 1/3, that's the same as saying 5 times 1 1/3. Now, when we're multiplying with fractions, we need to have it as either a proper fraction, so like 3/4, or an improper fraction like 5/4. We cannot have a mixed number. We can't multiply this, okay? So we're going to have to first change 1 1/3 to an improper fraction. To do this, we're going to say, okay, 1 times 3, add the 1 on top, all over 3. So 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4/3. So let's go back over here. We have 5 times 4/3. We want to put the 5 over 1, and then when we're multiplying fractions, we're just going to multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So 5 times 4 gives us 20, over 1 times 3 gives us 3. Now for this answer, I'm looking, it doesn't specify whether it needs to be as an improper fraction or as a mixed number. I would say probably go back to a mixed number since that's the form it was given to you in, but I will accept the answer either way. Just look if the question is specifying one way or the other. So 20/3, if we were going to change that back to a mixed number, we could say, okay, 3 goes into 20 6 times with 2 left over. To check this, we can just go, okay, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 does give us 20/3. So our answer would be 6 2/3 there. Okay, let's see. Okay, 6 is one I want to go over. I know this one can be kind of an intimidating one. So when I'm looking at this, I notice we have fractions for all of these. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to find the least common denominator out of 3, 5, and 7. And I don't know. We're actually going to do this differently because that's going to get really big. I think we're going to try a different way. We're first just going to kind of combine these two y's together. So we're going to get an LCD between 3 and 5. So since we're not multiplying everything by the same number, I'm just changing 2 of them. I'm going to have to just multiply them by 1, right? Because if I times a number by 1, it doesn't change the value of it. So since I'm just changing 2 of the fractions, I'm not going to worry about this third one because we'll just end up with, it'll have to be like 105, so kind of a big number. I'm just going to combine these two y's together. So I have basically 1/3 plus 1/5. Well, my LCD between just these two is going to be 15. So I'm going to multiply this one by 5 over 5 because, like I said, what's 5 divided by 5? That's 1. 1 multiplied by anything doesn't change the value. And then this one is 3 over 3. So again, if you're just multiplying 2 of the terms, you have to multiply it by a number over a number. So now I get I have 5y over 15 plus 3y over 15 equals still 5/7. Okay, so now I'm going to combine these two together. I get 5y, I guess it doesn't even matter. Well, so I get 5y plus 3y is 8y over 15 equals 5/7. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I have a fraction multiplied by the variable. Well, remember, I just want to get this variable alone, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 15/8. When I multiply by the reciprocal, it's going to cancel and just equal 1, but I have to do it to both sides. Alright, so 15's cancel, 8's cancel, I just get y equals 5 times 15. And first I'm going to check, make sure nothing cross cancels. 15 and 7, Nothing will cancel out of both of those. 5 and 8, nothing cancels there. So 5 times 15, I'm going to end up with 75 over 7 times 8, which is 56. It's quite the problem there. Do not convert to a decimal, so I think this answer should be fine. You may need to change it to a mixed number. Another way you could have done this problem is you could have multiplied everything by the LCD, which in this case would have been, let's see, 35 times 3 is 70, 105. So you could have multiplied everything by the LCD, and I believe that's what the video shows, so that would have been 105 over 1. So that would have worked. The reason you can do this and it doesn't have to be 5 over 5 is because you're multiplying every single term. So it's like you're proportionally changing the equation so the value stays the same. Again, in this case at the beginning, we could do 5 over 5 because that's just multiplying one term by 1. Okay? Let's look. Okay, hopefully that problem makes sense. Reach out if it doesn't. I believe 11. No, they change every time, so as you guys know. Okay, we're multiplying again here. Okay, let's look really quick at one where we divide. So when we're dividing fractions, we're going to keep the first one the same, but we flip the second one and then multiply. So the first stays the same. I flip the second and multiply them together. Now I'm going to look to cross cancel. This means I'm looking for numbers diagonal to each other that will cancel. Well, I notice I have 5 and 5, so I can basically divide a 5 out of the top, the numerator, and the denominator. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, 5 divided by 5 is 1. Looking here, I can divide both of these by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, 22 divided by 2 is 11. And now I can just say, okay, 2 times 1 equals 2, 1 times 11 equals 11. So that would be our answer. In this one, you could also just multiply them and then simplify at the end, but I prefer cross-canceling. All right, let's see. Find the area. So in this problem, I'm going to have 7 and 7/8 times, and I'm not going to go through this whole problem, I'm just going to help set it up. 3 and 3/4. So if you remember, when we're multiplying fractions, we cannot multiply when they're in mixed numbers. So we're going to have to change these both to improper fractions. So we'll have 7 times 8 plus 7. So 7 times 8 is 56. 56 plus 7 is 63 over 8. Okay, this other one, 3 and 3/4, 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3, and we'll get 15/4. And then we're going to multiply. Try to cross cancel if you can. It looks like you can't here. And then you're just going to multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and that will be your answer. Okay, 22. Just remember, do the one inside the parentheses squared first here. Okay, let's look at one of these. These ones are trickier. So on these ones, what we want to do is we're first going to want to simplify on the numerator and then simplify on the denominator. So we're going to treat these as kind of two separate fractions. So first on top, I have 8/5 plus 9/10. I want to get those to be one fraction. So I need to find a common denominator here. So between 5 and 10, what's my common denominator? Well, I know 5 goes into 10 and 10 goes into 10, so 10 is going to be it. So I'll multiply here by 2 over 2. Because 5 times 2 will give me the 10, and I also need to multiply the top by the same number. So I end up with 16/10 plus 9/10, which is going to give me 25/10. Okay, so I just find my LCD so I can combine these into one. So same thing on the bottom, need to find my LCD, looking for a number that both 4 and 2 will go into. Well, this one works out nice too. They both go into 4, so I'll only have to change the second one. So, I have 2 times 2 here, and again I have to multiply the top by the same number. So I'm going to get 3/4 minus 10/4. So 3 minus 10 is what I'm really looking at, and I get a negative 7/4. Okay, so that's kind of the first step. Get the top into just one fraction and the bottom into just one fraction. Well, now I know that this is really 25/10 divided by negative 7/4. So I'm going to write it out like that, because it seems like we recognize it better in that form. And we just talked about this. What do we do when we divide fractions? We keep the first the same, and then we flip the second and multiply. So we'll get negative 4/7. Okay, I'm going to look if I can cross cancel anywhere. 25/7, no, neither of those, but 10 and 4 are both even. They'll both divide out by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. Divide the 4 by 2, I still have negative 2. So then I get, oh, and 25 and 5 cancel. We'll do that in a sec. So 25 times negative 2, I get negative 50 over 5 times 7, which is 35. These both will divide by 5, right? So we'll simplify further. Just know with fractions, they should always be in simplest form. So negative 50 divided by 5, I get negative 10. 35 divided by 5, I get 7. And that will be my final answer. So on the test, just know everything needs to be simplified. So make sure any common terms are divided out. Okay, next, let's see, we have just a couple more minutes, so I'll have to be kind of quick. Okay, let's look at this one. She picked 2/9 of a bushel. Today she picked 1/4 of a bushel. How much more did she pick today than yesterday? Well, if she picked this much yesterday and this much today, we basically are looking for the difference between those, right? And so when we're saying difference, we're meaning subtract. So we would just subtract these two. I'll let you do that one because I still want you to get the practice. This one we kind of looked at one actually way harder than that. We looked at one kind of like that. This one, make sure you're using order of operations. When you get to multiply and divide, remember you're working from left to right. So you'll actually start with 2/5 divided by 11/20, and then once you've done that, times that number by 1/2. So multiply and divide in the same step from left to right. Okay, we're going to end there. I hope that helps. If there's any problems you get stuck on in the review, let me know and we can look at them. Have a great day.